thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with you here on Beyond the Headlines. We're into a hot topic segment, so you can call us in this segment of the program. It's 733-2481. 733-2482, 733-2481, 733-2482, or WhatsApp line, it's 553-5908, 553-5908. We're continuing with Cliff Hughes, talk show host, CEO of Nationwide News Network, formerly of Radio Jamaica, as we continue our series of interviews with people who have been through the corridors of Radio Jamaica, who have sat behind our microphones over the years. Margaret in Stony Hill says, you and Cliff Hughes, great interview. He's an extraordinary man in his class. And I have Danny in Prairie St. Anne says, I'm loving this interview. And Charmaine from Black River says, I remember Cliff as a geography teacher at Excelsior High. Yes, I don't even understand how the geography part just kind of slip in so. Because first we were at Carrimack, never get into law, go to Carrimack, and then suddenly I hear this thing about trained teacher and geography. It's like, what? I was like, what? Where did that come from?
Because out of high school, I decided to do teacher education at Excelsior Community College. Yes, so I trained as a teacher for 3 years, yes, and taught at Excelsior for about 2-3 years.
Did you like it?
I enjoyed it. It's the best job I've ever had.
Wow.
Teaching is, I really enjoy teaching, and I still do it today. Yes? My staff will tell you that, yeah, I'm first and foremost a teacher than anything else.
Okay. So why didn't you want to stay in the classroom then?
Why? Take one guess.
You mean as a daughter of a teacher? As a daughter of a teacher, we can move on.
Right.
That's so sad though, and continues to be.
Yes, it is very sad. Yes.
People who love the classroom but feel that they can't stay.
Right.
Well, one of the things you were telling us about is when you moved over to the news department that you made the decision to quit politics, quit the PNP. And I'm curious as to how that then went on to impact at all. In other words, you've quit the PNP, but did it still hang over you? Did people still see you as, boy, I'm a PNP kind of thing? But before you answer that, let's go back to February 11, 1990, a special edition of Exposure, which was RGR's Sunday News Magazine program. And this episode looked back at the first year of Michael Manley's government.
A pleasant Sunday afternoon to you and welcome to Exposure. I'm Cliff Hughes. Today, instead of our usual panel, we present an interview with the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Michael Manley. I interviewed Mr. Manley last Tuesday morning in our studios here at Radio Jamaica. The purpose of the interview was to look back at his first year in office since the general elections of February 9, 1989. I first asked the Prime Minister to give an assessment of his minister's performance. So let us first start with the dismissal of Claude Clark. Was it triggered by a combination of events or factors?
No, it was triggered by exactly what I said. As people made this clearly inside, but unintentionally or otherwise.
Okay, I'm going to fade that one out because that's not one of our better quality ones, but we get the sense. So interviewing PM, that's a big deal.
Yes,
So,
it was.
yeah, so
But Michael Manley was a good interviewee. Yes, but you had to be careful because he would just take it over. So you had to be on your P's and Q's to bring him back on track and to make sure he was answering your question.
okay, because he had so much to say.
Oh yes, oh yes. He was always gripping, yeah, interesting, and many times controversial.
And of course, so media savvy.
Yes,
Yeah.
very media savvy. You know, in my time, there were some people, Dionne, who you interview and you look forward to the interview because you know you're going to get good sound bites. That's what we live for in this profession. You're going to get stories out of it. There are others, when you interview them, you have to feel yourself because they could be very intimidating. Yes? Because all power that they bring, and they try to steamroll you intellectually.
Yes.
Yeah?
You have a tongue strong.
Exactly. And there were others, it was painful to interview them because they wouldn't get a sound bite, and if you get a sound bite, you'd have to cut and splice.
Yeah.
You know?
So I've been asking you whether or not your former membership in the PNP bothered you at all or came back to haunt you at all while you were in the newsroom.
Of course, it did. And even subsequent to me leaving RGR, yeah, it did for quite a while. When I left RGR in 1990 to become Director of Television News at JDC, it haunted me there because JDC out just before that era was dominated by politics. Yes? And I remember Ian Ramsey was the chairman, or it was Errol Miller, I think, under whose watch I was recruited to lead the television newsroom, and Claude Robinson was the GM at the time. And they told me that my job was to depoliticize the newsroom, to try to restore the credibility of JDC News. But the first time I got a real test of that was the Shell waiver scandal, which erupted and engulfed the then Deputy Prime Minister P.J. Patterson. You remember that Shell waiver matter?
Yes.
And when I got the story, I thought it prudent to inform the general manager, Claude. And Claude looked at me and said, "Are you absolutely sure about this?" And I said, "Yes." And I remember Professor Miller, also called me the evening just before we went on air at 7, and they were cautioning me, pretty much telling me that if you got it wrong, we will have your resignation in the morning.
Wow. No pressure.
And I said, we're running the story because I was very confident about the story. I can't tell you how I stumbled on the story. I think I have to keep that one in reserve. But you know what? When I got up the following morning, having ran the story the previous evening in the 7 o'clock news, I gather it was a front page story on the Gleaner's front page. And I wouldn't tell you, I said, yes! I said, yes! Yeah. And that made a whole lot of difference. And I think it was one of my proudest moments in the 3-4 years I spent at JDC.
Because that was a huge story.
It was. Yeah.
But you rose, this is a meteoric rise because you're going to the sports, into the news department, you say in 87. And in about 3 or 4 years, you're director of TV news at JVC?
Yes, because I'd risen pretty quickly at RGR, becoming, was it chief sub-editor or something like that? Yeah? Please don't hold me to the title, yeah? But I think it was chief sub-editor when I was in charge of a shift and some of the reporters, yes? And I was virtually headhunted, I think. And the fact that my political connections were well known, yes? Those connections would not have been a deterrent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So
Sylvine Hannibal says she is enjoying the interview with Cliff, and we have as well, this is trying to read as well as I speak. This is looking for the name, Dwight in Kingston, saying fabulous memories. I remember Cliff's Gilbert commentary like yesterday. I remember his commentary on Sports Day at Excelsior.
Oh, yes.
Really?
Yes. I had to go back to Excelsior a number of years to call the races. Yes.
I remember Cliff's commentary on RJR from Manning Cup football, he says. How Cliff has grown, says Dwight.
Yes, I did Manning Cup football. I enjoyed Manning Cup football with Lance Whitaker. Yes.
Okay.
Courtney Sargent.
Yes.
Yeah. There's some fabulous people who I worked with, you know. Lance in sports, Courtney Sargent in sports. In news, yeah? People like Terry Smith, who was a mentor, frankly. I learned so much from the late, great Terry Smith. Yes. Robert Bobby Frey. Yes. Peter Abrams. I would listen to those people. Erica Allen. Yes. And listen to them and learn from them. Janet Mort, who gave me the break. Yeah. In news. Janet Mort. Yeah. I think an under-recognized member of this profession. I don't think we have given her real due. The first woman to head a newsroom in Jamaica. Yeah? People like David Geddes, Lloyd Pusey, Patrick Anderson, Cecile Wilson, Alan Magnus, the late Doreen Samuels. Let me give you a story about Doreen. The first day I was asked to do the midday sports, first time, and I was so nervous. I was shaking like a leaf. And you know, I don't know the setup there, but there was a little table just to the right of the main announcer's desk. And when I was really nervous, Doreen just stretched across and held on to my hand. And I think that carried me through that sports cars that afternoon at 12:10.
What a sweet gesture.
Very, very sweet. I'll never forget it. Never forget it. You know? And there's some unsung heroes there that you don't hear much about. You're focusing on those behind the microphone. Flutter Lance, Jennifer Lance, the librarian at the time. Yeah? Good people. Jeffrey Brown. Is Jeffrey Brown still there? Technical operator? Not technical engineer? Or he's retired now?
Just about.
Jeffrey Brown. Yes. You know, outstanding Jamaican, Hal Plummer. I'm going to get in trouble.
When you start calling names. One of my listeners, Rick, is asking me to ask you, what has been your best interview? What would you regard as your best interview over the years?
Oh dear. My word. My best interview on radio would have been the morning when Hugh Croskill and I were together on First Edition and KLAS. And Carl Samuda had just returned to the Labour Party, having walked out of it and had represented the PNP in the same constituency of North Central St. Andrew. And Hugh Croskill and I, reduced Samuda to tears that morning. That was an epic moment that will forever stand out for me. On television, when I interviewed Edward Triaga when he was retiring from politics, and that prospective interview with Edward Triaga, when he said he just spoke, he just let it all hang out. I think that would have been possibly one of my better ones on television.
I have a call on the line. East Central, as he refers to himself. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. I would like to ask a quick question, please.
Yeah, man, go ahead.
Should we put camera in the courtroom?
You're asking Cliff that?
I'm asking a question.
You're asking generally if we should put cameras in the courtroom?
Yes, please.
I tell you what, call me Monday and we talk about that.
And we have quite a few more things, just because I've made it.
I'm going to cut you off today. I'm so sorry. Today I'm only taking questions for Cliff, all right? So next week we'll go back to a regular conversation, all right? All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. 553-5908 is our WhatsApp line. Mr. Coombs online. Go ahead, Mr. Coombs.
Hello, Mrs. Miller.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Hughes.
Good evening, Mr. Coombs.
Yeah, Mrs. Miller, today when I was in studio, I was trying to let your Mrs. Hildo tell her what I mean, you know, but I was trying without success. Anyway, it mean we went to my college, yeah? And the 5 o'clock news. Well, we believe in it nice, but me not take that in school, I don't understand it clearly. Will I read in the door, have something, could you explain to me, please?
All right, I'll tell you what. I'm going to let my producer talk to you, and she'll do that off air, because I don't want not waste, but I have limited time with Cliff Hughes, and I have like a million more questions left.
Thank you.
All right. So you mentioned they're working with the great Hugh Crosskill, and you both did that morning program on KLAS. So of course, this was obviously after you had left JBC, you went to the Commonwealth Broadcasting Association for a little while, and then you came back and started that morning program. What was that like now? Because that's something new now.
A new challenge, because it was morning radio, and it required a different approach. And we were attempting to build something. And it came with a lot of challenges, but some very good moments. I rather liked morning radio, yeah, because it gave you the ability to go into some area that you would not necessarily do for late afternoon, yeah. So I enjoyed it, and Crosskill, working with Crosskill, was just extraordinary. Crosskill is certainly the most gifted broadcaster I've worked with in my time, no doubt about that. Yeah?
Yeah, he's one of the brightest people I've ever met.
Yes.
And he's read everything, I swear. He asked us in a meeting if we had read the Lomé Agreement, and we're all going, what? Like what?
That was Hugo. He was just, fantastic to work with. He had his demons, yeah, but trust me, without doubt, the most gifted broadcaster in my time.
Having worked so closely with him, it must have been gut-wrenching when he died.
Oh, Lord.
And especially watching his deterioration.
Yes, absolutely gut-wrenching, Dionne, and to have been up close with him, yeah, to see the trials, the tribulations, the small gains that made us say, okay, he's about to turn the corner, to kick the habit, and then the relapses. It was very frustrating, The morning when I got the word that he had been shot, it wasn't surprising, but at the same time, devastating, And then you sit down and you think about it, and you said, well, he's at rest now, yeah? The life that he had descended into was just too much. Yeah.
Also in Spanish Town on WhatsApp says, I was in college with Cliff and Philip Paulwell. They both wanted to be politicians. If he doesn't remember me, tell him the VP from Wolmer's, the Rastaman.
Okay. The VP from Wolmer's.
Yeah. Also actually taught at Morantby when I was there, so know him from way back when.
Yes.
So starting nationwide now, that's another leap now. So first of all, even before I get to that, is that something you had envisaged or thought about years before?
No. After I came back from the Commonwealth Broadcasting Association stint, which took me across the Caribbean and visited 17 Caribbean countries, teaching young reporters the art of news reporting and writing and presentation, I needed to do something. And I started my own media company, A1 Communications, and that was the whole idea that led to First Edition.
Right.
Yeah? And after First Edition, it became Nationwide at 5 as an independent production with a small team, and it just grew and grew from there.
When you started A1, was it that, okay, I don't want to work for anybody else, but again, I don't want to be my own boss, or was it born of necessity that there weren't any opportunities at the time?
It was a mix of both, really. Yeah, I enjoyed the editorial freedom that goes with that, and also the fact that I was able to cut my teeth and to dig into things that I wanted to really do. And I think there was also a gap. I thought there was a gap, a niche to be filled in terms of afternoon news and current affairs programming in Jamaica. I remember some people, I won't call any names now, who told me, "You're a madman. You're a madman. Now there's nothing for news and current affairs, yeah, after 2 to 5. So 2 to 5, and at 5, radio, dead. It's television at the time." This was back in 1998, yeah, when I started Nationwide at 5, at Hot 102. Yeah, and it has grown to the place now where we...
It's so long?
Yes, 1998, September. That's how many years? 23 years. Yes. To the point now where Nationwide challenge a certain media house on Linders Road.
You know, let me just say publicly, my position has always been Mr. Hughes. If a stone you throw after me, I love competition. I think the more vibrant, healthy, excellent media houses we have, the better for Jamaica and the better for media workers.
So true. That
Okay.
is so true.
All right.
So true.
So I want to see Nationwide do well. And I notice when I challenge on TV now. Yeah, man, documentary and thing.
Exactly. I notice we're doing it without making any fancy or any fuss. We're slowly building, learning to creep before we walk, before we can run. Yeah, building capacity.
That must be exciting though.
And challenging. Very challenging, but exciting. Yes.
So the internet and social media really have given avenues that, I mean, I know we've said it, but I mean, when we see Nationwide, you really see it in action, giving you avenues that may never have been open otherwise.
True. The social media, explosion in social media and new forms of communication technologies, those new platforms have not only democratized public discourse, yeah, and the exchange of ideas nationally, but they also provide economic opportunities for small outfits like ours to be nimble and to, grow and provide a service and carve out our own little niche.
All right.
Yeah,
I have 2 minutes left, and I have a call and a question. So let me go to the caller, Ras Butter in St. Andrew, calling for Cliff. Go ahead, Ras Butter.
Greetings, dear.
Yes, sir. Talk fast for me.
Cliff Rock, what one?
Aye, where say butter?
Well, I'm never giving thanks, my boss. I'm glad to hear you about my birthday.
And especially hearing me on the big RGR 94, right?
Man, my favorite lady interviewing you, man.
Very well.
You know me. You know what I admire with you, Cliff? You should wear the time with you and Hugh Crossfield.
Yes.
When you and Hugh Crossfield back up a man, you know. I help up and thunder loose, you know.
Yes.
I don't forget them days in a brethren.
Yeah, they were an excellent pair.
Don't let me tell you, Dionne, man.
Yeah, man.
And to be honest with you, at that point, I knew that Cliff Hughes would have taken this thing very serious. Because Hugh Crossfield is one of the best journalists I've ever really seen locally, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I'm going to leave it to Ras Butter. I'm trying to squeeze in one more question from a listener. You hear?
Just thanks, Cliff.
Thank you so much for calling. And
all right, man, cool.
Deborah Hicklin Gordon says Cliff was one of my best bosses, fair and a great teacher. Hail Cliff. And a question from Javion, who wants a quick comment on impact.
Deborah Hicklin?
Yeah.
Oh, hi Deborah. Yes. You see this thing we call something extra, I think it is now. Deborah started that.
Really?
At TV at JDC with me. Yeah, something extra, a little extra it was.
Yes, I remember that.
And Deborah started that. It was her idea and she built it. What you now have as entertainment report,
yes.
ER and whatever,
yes.
started on a Friday with Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller started that as the ER entertainment report for 5 minutes under my watch at JBC, and I'm very proud of how it has grown. And I quickly say you're out of time, Dionne.
Yes, I am.
Anthony Miller is a genius of a writer. I think he's clearly one of our best writers in the craft today.
And interviewers too.
And the interviewer, yes, he was fearless. Another time I'll tell you about that at the arena when Anthony Miller, Sandra Faulkner, and I came under attack when the GLP was at war.
Okay, well,
we have to do it another time.
I hear you mention your book, so
yes.
I guess when your book comes
I
out.
have to write.
Thank you so much for giving us so much time. It's been a great pleasure.
And thanks for inviting me, Dionne, and you continue to do the good job you're doing. I know it gets rough sometimes, but this is the profession we signed up for. Yeah?
Thank you so much. Cliff Hughes talking to us here beyond the headline.